If your texting habits make you appear far lower in value than a man's own perceived value, his attraction to you will steadily diminish until he ultimately loses interest in you. Ideally, you want your texting habits to indicate that you possess the same level of value as him, or even slightly higher, which thus increases his attraction and desire to pursue you. One of the easiest ways of accomplishing this is through playful teasing. Playfully teasing your guy through text is a great way to increase your status, and thus your value in his eyes. This kind of engagement creates the kind of tension that will stimulate chemistry and arouse his attraction to you. Now, before we move forward, I want to make one thing clear. This book will not show you how to have the most amazing texting conversations with a guy to make him fall in love with you. 19+ Deep Lessons from the book, Texts So Good He Can't Ignore. Number 1. When texting men, in most cases, less is best. Keep your conversations short and succinct. Texting is not a good medium for lengthy sentences and drawn-out conversations that detail the ins and outs of your day. You're not writing him a novel or explaining college-level calculus. You're simply keeping in touch. Texting should be treated almost the same way you use your Twitter account.
Wow!
In other words, keep your sentences short and your conversations as succinct as possible. Number 2. If a man appears very interested in you but hasn't yet offered a time and place to meet up, don't be afraid to suggest one yourself. A shy or deeply infatuated man might really want to ask you out, but feel hindered by a fear of rejection. Number 3. When a man texts you a flirtatious compliment, ensure that you devour the bait and flirt back with him. If you consistently fail to recognize and capitalize on his flirting, he will think you are either bored of him or indifferent to his advances.
Oh no!
Number 4. Men who do not enjoy texting in general are more likely to ignore a text in which a conversation is expected. If you find yourself attracted to such a man, keep your texts fun, succinct, and free of any expectation. The less he feels a response is necessary, the happier he will be to reply to you. Number 5. If you wish to avoid men who will text you consistently but never ask you out, allude to your expectations of being asked out whenever a man asks for your phone number. Number 6. Resist the temptation to shield your insecurities with laughter. A man can pick up on your confidence or lack thereof based on the authenticity of your lols. In certain situations, texted laughter reveals your insecurity. Don't use lol or haha to feign semi-seriousness. Using laughter as a cushion against being rejected or disagreed with will limit your ability to create authentic connections with men. In most cases, if you must feign semi-seriousness, use a flirtatious emoji instead. Be genuine with your texts and save the laughter when making or receiving a genuine joke. Remember your ABCs. Always be confident. Number 7. If you want to keep a man's interest in you both consistent and obvious, let him dominate the initiations of contact. Giving him the gift of pursuing you keeps him from feeling controlled and thus arouses his longing for your attention. It's important to keep in mind that most men love being chased by women in some way. Hence, you can easily weed out guys who only want you around to boost their egos and other types of low-interest men simply by rarely initiating contact in the beginning of a new romance. Number 8. Keep your emoji usage to a minimum. Your average texting conversation with a man should not look like one of those ugly and confusing web pages from the early 90s. You know, the ones that were cluttered with random colors, dazzling animations, and ugly font. Unfortunately, this is exactly what's going to happen if you overdo it with the emojis. Emojis should be used in moderation and are best reserved when flirting or to convey a feeling of friendliness or breeziness in conversation. It is better to sprinkle emojis frugally across the length of a text conversation rather than unloading them all in one sentence. Number 9. When deciding on when to respond to a man's texts, ensure that your approach is both genuine and discriminating. Be genuine, by responding with a fondness for his attention, but be discriminating by ensuring that he is also clearly fond of your attention. Number 10. As is their nature, men will make clever attempts to establish a physically intimate relationship with you through sexual innuendo-oriented texts. Assuming his interest in you is sincere, a firm but gracious display of your standards will deepen his respect and intensify his desire for you. Don't let guys inundate you with low-value communication attempts. If you consistently find yourself on the receiving end of low-quality communication attempts, challenge him. Let's say you had a texting conversation with a new gentleman admirer that ended with you asking him a question. What would you do if he texts you 3 days later without referencing your question or at least some sort of saving face explanation? Would you pretend as if nothing ever happened and engage with him enthusiastically anyway? Or would you inject a bit of sass in your text to playfully call him out? If it's the first or second time he's done this, you might decide to just give him the benefit of the doubt and ignore it, which is what most women would do. But what if this is his third offense, where he ignores something you said or asked during a previous conversation and texts you back days later as if nothing happened? Number 11. Resist the temptation to overinvest in a man, especially when his communication attempts appear low interest, low investment, or altogether unenthusiastic. If a guy consistently sends you low-value texts or replies to your texts at a snail's pace, resist the temptation to overinvest and chase him. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Why would you chase a man who doesn't seem invested in communicating with you? Well, there's more than one way to chase a man, and one of the easiest ways to accidentally do so is to succumb to his emotional indifference. A man's emotional indifference, if perpetually tolerated, has the potential to stimulate your anxiety, which will arouse your romantic desire and compel you to overinvest in him. Read that last sentence again. Number 12. Premature pet names might give your new guy the wrong impression of you. It's best to save the overly cute and endearing pet names for boyfriends and boyfriends only. Some men don't like being given super cutesy or overly familiar pet names, especially in the beginning of a blossoming romance. The level of tolerance for this sort of thing will vary from guy to guy, as some guys will find it mildly annoying while others will have a zero-tolerance policy for it. I know it sounds weird and kind of finicky, but believe me, this is actually a deal breaker for a lot of guys. What's worse is that these guys will never actually tell you that they don't like being given pet names so early in the game. Instead, they'll just quietly disappear into the background and respond to your texts less and less until you never hear from them again. Number 13. When in doubt, make other plans. Nothing gets a guy's attention faster than a woman who doesn't wait around longing to be picked. Whenever you doubt a man's interest or you find yourself confused about whether he wants to go out with you or not, the best thing you can do to preserve both your dignity and your sanity is to simply make other plans. Every dating advice guru or relationship expert will disagree on many different things, but this is one point that they will, or should, all agree on. Why? Well, because it works, and it makes you far more attractive and interesting to a man. Number 14. While you shouldn't get hung up on perfect grammar, don't allow unsophisticated grammar to become a hindrance to getting the love life you want. Okay, so this is a tough one. On one hand, we all use text slang, questionable punctuation, and shortened versions of words to get our point across via texting. That's fine. But on the other hand, there is still a fine line between efficient shorthand texting and grammar that is clearly unrefined, gaudy, or positively primeval. You know what I'm talking about. Number 15. Never text while emotionally impaired or under the influence of alcohol. A single vulgar or tactless text sent while in an emotionally crippled or inebriated state can undermine several weeks of rapport and respect a man has gained for you. Number 16. Do not encourage or entertain men who send you unsolicited naked pictures of themselves or their genitals. Ah yes, the infamous pic. Why do men send it? And how does a girl respond to guys who do? Well, to address the first question, guys send dick pics because, well, they can. Honestly, even I don't fully grasp the concept of randomly sending women a picture of your genitals, but I'm sure these guys have a sound, logical reason for doing so. My guess is, they send these pictures because they're pretty proud of their bodies, genitalia, and they want to show you what you're dealing with. They also send these pics because it's a great way for them to quickly figure out what kind of woman they're dealing with. Number 17. Petty-minded overshares and day-to-day problems do not make for good conversation. Your gentleman texter doesn't need to know about every little thing you're thinking or feeling, especially if such things are superficial and mundane. Number 18. Do not make a habit out of accepting last-minute dates, especially by text. Consistently doing so will cause a man to believe that you do not value your time and attention, and thus, over time, neither will he. While accepting a last-minute date every now and then can be a good way to show off your more fun and spontaneous side, habitually doing so will train the men you date to take you for granted. Consistently accepting a man's last-minute offers to go out will give him the impression that you are always on call whenever he needs a beautiful distraction in his life. And there is nothing that kills a man's romantic desire earlier on than a beautiful woman who is always available to him whenever he wants to see her. Number 19. Prioritize phone calls and face-to-face conversations for all the important things. Texting is not a good medium for relationship-altering conversations and conflict resolution. Feeling super upset about something your new guy did on the fourth date? If so, you should meet with him face-to-face and graciously express how you feel. Been dating for 2 months, but you're expecting an out-of-state job transfer in a week? If so, you should call him to talk about it, or better yet, meet with him face-to-face to let him know about it. Feeling unsure or extremely anxious about something he did or said, and you need some clarity? If so, fight your primary instincts and resist the temptation to coerce an explanation out of him via text. A better alternative? Talk to him face-to-face. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day.